Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Bruni, and joining me once again is Shay Dixon, who is live from Las Vegas. I'm here in Baton Rouge, and Shay, it has happened again. 5 times now in a row, LSU has lost the season opening game. This time to USC, 27-20, as USC marches down the field and scores a touchdown with about 8 seconds left to put the dagger in the Tigers' coffin. And this is one of the more fascinating games. Like last year was obviously a beatdown. 2 years ago, the extra point got blocked, and it was a crazy game. But like this one just feels like it has a lot of layers to it. So I'll throw it right to you. You're there. Where do you want to start when talking about this game? I know it's a very broad question, but both teams over 400 yards, but it was a relatively low scoring game.
I don't think anybody had 27-20 by the end of it, but 10-10 at half, low scoring. And look, check out Brian Kelly's press conference. We'll have it on the Bengal Tigers YouTube as well, and you can go watch that. He was heated. And look, it all starts with the head coach, right? And he said, look, he got mad, and he said, this is unacceptable. We're talking about the same thing year after year now of game one. What makes this different for me, Matty B, is those Florida State teams I thought were as good, if not better, than LSU was. I didn't think that about USC.
Yep.
They trade blows with them. Obviously, we didn't know much about what LSU's defense would be able to look like, how improved they could be. When you go into halftime and you've only given up 10 points, then you come out in the third quarter, force a punt, give up a long drive, and a score, but even on that one, or actually held them to a field goal, but on that one, block in the back didn't get called, but you end up bend, don't break, field goal, and then 3 and out again, punt. In that span, you took the lead, and then you don't win the game.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you get outscored 14-3 in the final 3 scores of the game. And Brian Kelly said a lot of it is red zone, get down there, and if you don't score points, or you only come away with 3, that's how you lose a 1-score game. Well, yeah, that's true. He also went for it again in the red zone to start the game. Like, that could have been 3 right there. So I don't agree with some of the stuff they do with the aggressive play calling down in the red zone, going for it on 4th. Like, if it works, great, you scored a touchdown, but like, it feels to me like that just says they don't have confidence that they're going to be able to kick a field goal and win a game. Like, they have to get 7 every time.
It was, and the other part, which plays into a bigger role, is that the offense very clearly does not have an identity right now. So you go for it on 4th and goal from the 3 on your very first possession of the season, and you're just not comfortable. They did not look like at any point they end the game 5 of 13 on 3rd downs. They get into the 15 3 times and walk away with 6 points, because when they get to that point with the last 2 years with Jaden Daniels, what was their offense in the red zone? It was Jaden Daniels probably keeping it or running or doing those rollouts that he does. But with Nussmeier quarterback, they do not have an identity as an offense right now. They tried taking what USC gave them, but when you get into those margins that inside the red zone, you have to be perfect. You have to be sharp. You have to know what you're doing, and they just didn't. So it was crazy to me that they did not take the 3 to start the game, because it felt a lot like last year with Florida State, where they didn't take the 3 and didn't get it. But even that was at the 1 last year.
Yeah, and
this was at the 3.
That doesn't make any sense to me. And here they get first and goal at the 8. Josh Williams, 1-yard loss. All right. Then you say, okay, we're going to throw it. You go to Lacey, fine. That was the one that he caught, but he got pushed out of bounds.
Yeah.
I'm all for it, Lacey. Yeah. We'll get more on that in a second. 3rd and 9 now. You go to Kyle Parker, short of the sticks, or short of the goal line. All that tells me is that you've already made up your mind that either Kyle Parker is going to score or you're going to go for it. Like, he catches it and gets in, or you're going for it. They get to the 3, go for it, and what is the result? They went to CJ Daniels, but I think Nuss got blitzed and turned around.
He turned around and then threw it away almost.
He spun, and I think that he didn't realize, like, he was still good. Like, he was clear, and I'm not knocking Nuss. And look, people are going to be, it's late. It's been a long weekend. The message boards are on fire. People are upset. I get it. Garrett Nussmeier is not the reason they lost this game. But on that play, Yes, the fourth down, he gets blitzed, he spins
Yeah.
out of it. He thought he was about to get rocked, so he just throws it. He had
Like,
time to sit there and look
yeah.
around again.
Yeah. He doesn't
But
know
just kick
exactly.
it, go up 3-0.
Yeah, yeah, and he doesn't know exactly what he's looking for. And on that play, DJ Chester misses the linebacker blitz that gets to Nussmeier. Like, there's just details that this
We
offense
talked
is not
about we talked
comfortable
about
with.
that. We talked about that though. We knew that center,
Yeah,
and no fault of DJ, is their only new starter. He wasn't. Will Campbell talked a lot about how they were coming out for a fist fight. He cost them on multiple plays.
yeah,
I mean,
two penalties.
Emory Jones is the one who was in a fist fight. Him
Yeah,
and that DN were they should have jersey swapped after the game. They went
yeah,
after it. Will Campbell's supposed to be your leader. He's the one who's getting you penalties. Like, I can take DJ Chester missing something on the first drive of his first start. Like, I
yeah,
get it. Over the course of the game, the Will Campbell stuff that's not a number 18 or 7 move for me. Like, and I love Will Campbell. He's a great football player. You can't make those mistakes at this point in your career. If you're
yeah,
being, a top 10 pick,
yeah.
and your head coach is calling you out in the press conference after the game as one of the reasons that y'all got set back and lost the game.
Well, very simply, like 10 penalties for 99 yards. 3 of those pass interference calls, cool. All right, we'll get to the defense and secondary later. But you had the Major Burns offsides penalty that let them throw a free play that ends up being a touchdown. You have the targeting on Jordan Gilbert that put them well into field goal range. Like, you just had play after play where mental mistakes, like coming out of a timeout or coming out of a break, they get a delay of game penalty, sets them back, and it's just like, these are not the signs of a team that is ready to play, that is sharp, that knows what they want to do out of the gates. And to your point, where they had their foot on USC's neck, they had no idea how to close the door. None. They couldn't run the ball consistently until John Emery came in and saved the day. Without John Emery, I don't know what the rushing stats would have looked like. Well, actually, I do. Josh Williams, 3.7 yards per carry. Caleb Jackson, 3 yards per carry. Like, there was no run game until John Emery came in and started breaking off some runs. And in the run game, or in the pass game, they took what USC gave them, but it was all short stuff. They were fine. Bend, don't break. USC was like, all right, prove it to us that you are going to be sharp inside the 15, and LSU wasn't.
They came out in that third quarter, and again, kudos to the D. I mean, they played great in the third quarter. So great. Blake Baker, halftime adjustments, whatever happened, they looked great in the third quarter and only gave up 10 in the first. You'll take that all day.
Yeah.
But the first half, Nuss was, and he played with, I said this all along, they needed to not turn the ball over, and he needed to play within the offense. He's a gunslinger. He can throw it deep. Chris Hilton didn't play. He's their deep guy, really. But
Yeah.
I didn't need to see that, because look at the first half. Even with just 10 points, they left 3 on the board, and then they didn't score the other time they got down in the red zone. But he was carving them up. I mean, he was finding guys, hitting them in their spots, and letting Mason Taylor go make plays after the catch. Kyron Lacey, Xavier Thomas,
Aaron Anderson.
Aaron Anderson.
Yeah.
I'm fine with all that.
Yeah.
When they get, though, into that third quarter, Josh Williams run up the middle for 3 yards. Caleb Jackson run off right 4 yards. Okay, so now it's 3rd and 3. And now you've thrown it short of the sticks to C.J. Daniels. You're throwing a 2-yard pass to C.J. Daniels.
Yeah. It was literally go ahead.
I guess we're just banking that every time that they're getting yards after the catch. Or
Like,
at least a yard or
yeah.
whatever. I mean, it's not crazy, but there's got to be other things you can be doing here on 3rd and 3 than a 2-yard, something that's going to get you 2 yards.
And there were times, again, I think Nussmeier played a really good game. I think some of the shortcomings were on him and Sloan, maybe, in terms of trying to make it easy on, like, Sloan was trying to make it easy on Nuss, and he did for the most part, right? It was easy. 1, 2, 3 reads, nothing where he had to chuck the ball down the field. But in key moments, Nussmeier didn't make those, like, big, all right, read the defense, hit the guy past the sticks. Like I believe it was CJ Daniels on a in-breaking route where Nuss got blitzed and threw it short to, I believe it was Mason Taylor who shorted the sticks. Like, there were moments where Nussmeier, maybe just, if he was more comfortable waiting and maybe taking a hit while he delivered it, and that comes with maturity, that comes with growth, that's where Nussmeier will have to continue to develop because he's not a runner. Like he just didn't run at all this game. So it's a developing process. Again, the offense let LSU down because they didn't extend the game. They didn't take advantage of the drives that they did have. They ended the game with 421 yards, and it doesn't matter because you only scored 20 points. Like that's just unacceptable.
And that's why Brian Kelly got so heated. And again, it's going to fall on his shoulder. He's on the headsets. If people are going to say, well, we were too conservative, and naturally, if you're talking about offense, you're talking about the play callers. So you say Joe Sloan's too conservative. Brian Kelly's the head coach and an offensive-minded one at that. Yeah. If he's getting play calls that he thinks are too conservative, overrule them. Or are calls coming down that he's then chiming in on and saying, let's do this. Because after John – and look, at that bad possession I just talked about, the next one is when John Emery went off, right? Then they go into the third quarter, 17-13. You felt momentum shifting. They come right
into the fourth.
They come right out in the fourth, run it with Emery again, gets 4 yards. Then they throw deep to Trey Green.
Oh, it was
your true freshman tight end.
Threw it away almost. It was weird.
And then 3rd and 6, you throw short of the 6 to Josh Williams, your running back.
Yeah.
Then you punt it. USC takes the ball back. Somehow LSU once more bails the offense out of that bad situation. Savion comes up with a big play, turnover on downs, and Major Burns takes his helmet off. 15-yard penalty. They back all the way up, and they come out and say, and again, you're going to say, was it Sloan? Was it Kelly? Whomever. It falls on the head coach. He's on the headsets. They come out and say, well, Emery had been doing it. Let's just keep running it with Emery. 5-yard loss. Next play, Pimpton nearly gets the first down, 14 yards. 3rd and 1, John Emery stuffed again. Punt. Miller Moss drives them down. They score, and
it's over.
Tie it eventually, but it's over. I mean,
they tie it and then they go down.
He said, we got up, and the guys on the sideline just felt like, oh, we're good. We won. We won the game. There was no urgency. It's not the conservativeness. It's the no urgency. There was no sense of urgency after they took the lead.
It felt like now that I think about it, it felt like they thought they had the offense of last year. Like, oh, we just got another stop. Like, let's just go put the game away. It felt like they thought they had Daniels, Neighbors, Thomas, who were just going to magically make something happen. Like,
or the offense in the bowl game where they were losing 14-0 out of the gates, and then they have at the end of the game a 1-minute drill that wins them the game, and you walk them off basically. That doesn't happen every time.
Yeah, ultimately, like the offensive line was disappointing to me, like in the run game specifically. Like,
oh my goodness, like 3 years in a row though, Matty B. We talked about this all offseason.
We talked about this a lot.
Could they run the football without Jaden Daniels? Could they run the football without Jaden Daniels? No, they can't. John Emery was the only person who ran the football well. RB3
on one leg.
On one leg.
It's so that's the most drastic thing to me. Like the offense in theory should be good this year. I think it will be, but it has to be a lot sharper. Like the nuances that they got away with last year that didn't really matter last year because they were so freaking good and Daniels, Neighbors, Thomas were just did whatever they wanted. Like those nuances matter now. Like now you have to be precise in everything you do. And the play calling has to be precise. Like you can't just dial up a play and let Daniels run for 40 yards. Like you have to be on point with everything. And so that's going to be interesting to see how this develops over the course of the season. But we got to flip to the defense before we, we're already at 14 minutes here. So let's flip it to the defense, which, like you said, bailed out the offense time after time after time. But I have a hard time like assessing this because the defense obviously is better than last year. Like obviously, it was aggressive.
Baker called a great game.
I thought Baker called a good game, but the secondary is still a massive, massive problem. Like it just is. The secondary is not good right now, and it hurt LSU time after time. Three DPIs.
Who thought they were going to be good? Like we have said this, that still was, they didn't have any, these were all the same guys as last year.
Yeah.
Like Ashton Stamps looked good.
Yeah, Stamps had moments. Yep.
But you're playing Sage Ryan because you have to bring her all along at PJ Woodland. Well, Sage gets burned a couple times. They put Carter Raymond throws PJ Woodland in there. Like they don't have answers there. Jordan Allen I thought Jordan Allen was going to be like the other question mark at safety. He was better than the guys who've been playing for 5 years.
Yeah,
He had
Gilbert
never
was.
played in the game, basically.
Yeah.
Was extremely disappointing.
Yeah, Gilbert was like Burns, Gilbert, Ryan, like the three old guys again that had to be
All
good
veterans
were just
had played a lot of SEC football. Were
mental
the three worst.
mistakes. Like again, the last
Bad
play,
angles. It's all the
the
same stuff they were doing last year.
yeah, the last play where Moss completes the pass on the sideline, they're in. It looks like cover 2, and Kirk breaks it down where Sage should be jamming that receiver. Instead, he gets a free release. And Miller makes the pass, and then Gilbert has to sprint over there because he wasn't jammed and dive into him to try to break it up. Like, yes, Gilbert maybe should have been there, but Sage has to jam him. Like, those are details that Sage Ryan should not be missing. So those three guys. Stamps, I think, is by far the best defensive back. He took his, he had the one touchdown caught over him, cool, but like Stamps, all right. Jordan Allen was decent. I don't want to say he was great, but he was decent enough. And then the three veterans just were complete letdowns. And as a secondary, to allow Miller Moss to go for 378 yards is absurd. Over 10 yards per attempt for Miller Moss, like. The secondary is still a massive concern. The front six, I actually feel pretty good about. But again, the secondary, this is exactly what we said going into the year. No surprises.
Blake Baker and Corey Raymond and Jake Olson were not going to be able to save the secondary when it's the same pieces as it was a year ago. The D-line had no D-line coach at all last year. Anything they did. And look, when we had heard from sources, hey, look, Savion Jones looks a lot better than he did last year. He did. He was a monster out there. Shan, Swinson, Paez played great.
Yeah.
And we can dig apart the actual game at a later point, but overall, we knew that the DBs are what they are. I don't want to take anything away from a defense that, and it was just well said on our board. I'm looking, Tiger Dev posted it. It said, go back and look. Everyone, fans, us, at our score predictions. They held USC to less than anyone predicted.
Yeah.
But the offense scored less than anyone predicted. So even with 400 and something yards of offense, it doesn't matter. They didn't score down there. They were chasing points and not getting it. They were settling for 3 when at different points. So look, the season is not over. It's a long season. Thank goodness it's an expanded playoffs. Thank goodness this is not an SEC game. But there's also the frustration of you've lost a 5th straight opener, and this one was winnable. This one was winnable.
Absolutely. This was not, again, you look at the last 4, and obviously you have the 2 years ago on Florida State where the extra point is blocked. But other than that, like, you were outclassed by Mississippi. Like, if we go all the way back, Mississippi State, UCLA, put those in the review, whatever. Then you had the blocked extra point. Then you had last year where it was, again, you were outclassed. This year, a neutral site, you're favored. You should, in theory, have more talent than this USC team. And I think you're out coached. I think you're out physicaled. You're out tough. Like, you are out executed. And ultimately, at some point, like, I know everybody wants to, get rid of these week 1 games where you're playing good teams. Okay, would it make you feel better if they had beaten Nichols week 1 and then lost to USC week 2? Like, would that have really made you feel better here? Because at some point, you're going to have to beat these teams. At some point, you're going to have to buckle up the chin strap and beat South California. Like, at some point, you're going to have to beat Florida State. Like, you can't run from it. Brian Kelly, you have to have this team ready, and he knows that. He said that. You have to have this team ready to play in this game at some point. And it's a bad loss. It is a bad loss because I made a video this morning saying, LSU fans should feel good. A&M looked like trash, or not trash, but A&M did lost. Florida looked like trash. Like, the schedule is easy, and then you lose to USC, and now you're in an uphill battle to get to 10 wins. If obviously that's the goal, but it's not a good. It's a bad loss.
Hindsight is so easily 2020, but again, take away what John Emery did and what was the run game doing. Like,
Nothing,
in terms of conservative play calling after they took the lead, I don't know, like, what got you there? What got you to down into the goal line when you're chasing points and not getting it was Nuss throwing the football. Nuss was hitting guys and letting them do yards after the catch. Like, they would get their yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Throw it to Aaron Anderson and get you a touchdown. You know, like, Those guys can do it. Just put it in their hands. I just don't get why. And again, it'll fall in the feet of Kelly. He gets paid the most money as a head coach. Why go up and be conservative? What is there to lose? Because all you did was lose the game. You gave it right back to them.
Yeah. And coming out of the 2-minute warning, they, what was it? Incomplete. No, it was back-to-back incomplete passes, right? That only ran off 13 seconds, which gave USC like a minute 47. And one of them, again, in the red zone, where Kyron Lacy didn't know where to run. He was like motion, and then Nussmeier said stop, and then he kept motioning, and then Nussmeier just panics and was about to call timeout and throws it. They're not sharp, and it's incredible to me because USC, Miller Moss, like, I'm not saying Nussmeier didn't look comfortable, but Miller Moss and that USC offense, I can't think of many times where they were just like flat out, I mean, confused. And they did burn those 2 timeouts, so I guess those would be the times. But I thought USC had a much better pulse of the game offensively and knew what they were good at than LSU, which was very concerning because LSU went into this game thinking that they were going to be able to run the ball and couldn't. LSU went into this game thinking in the red zone, oh, we're going to have like all these tight ends, we're going to do this, do that. They didn't know what the heck they were doing in the red zone. So it's a bad loss, and I think
All right.
Kelly's frustration is completely warranted because they should have won this game.
Here's my other thing that you can call this. I don't even care what category it falls into. How does Kyron Lacy look like a top 20 draft pick in the first half?
Yeah.
And you threw him the ball twice in the second half and no both incomplete.
Yeah.
Don't throw it to anyone else at that point. Just like we said this going into last year. If it's and like Brian Thomas ends up being a first rounder too, but we saw it in camp. When they needed something, they throw it to Malik.
Yeah.
When you need something, just throw it to Kyron. Throw it to Kyron and Mason Taylor. Throw it to those two. How Kyron gets out of the second half with 2 passes thrown his way. He didn't get clamped. They can get him open.
Yeah.
Like that blew my mind when drives kept happening and there was no Kyron Lacy.
Yeah.
This is a guy 3 years ago that couldn't. Fans were kicking him off the team. He doesn't deserve to be here. He can't catch it. He carried them in the first half. And then you just don't go to him. That can't happen again. If they aren't throwing the ball to him 10 plus times a game, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. He's a first round receiver. 100%. Like we just watched. He is a first round receiver for them. I will say I think the absence of Hilton was felt a bit. Now again, would they have thrown it deep?
Maybe in
I don't know.
the deep and vertical game, maybe. Yeah.
But like I said it when he was announced that he wasn't playing. Like I said, oh, that's something because he's clearly the fastest and clearly they're over the top guy. And without him, it changes things. So
it's not nothing. He's a starter.
Yeah. And then Parker goes out and gets hurt. Parker goes out and gets hurt on his first reception. So then you're really, I'm not, you still have Xavion and Aaron and whatnot, but still you're digging down even deeper into the depth chart. So, yeah, it's a disappointing one. I did not think at any point until it actually happened that LSU was going to lose this game because I thought LSU looked like the better team. And
Same.
I was waiting, again, just like Brian Kelly, just like the offense was, I was waiting on LSU to put the game away. And they just never did. And I can say that as a spectator, but as a team, you should have the mindset of, we're going to go in this game right now. And you had 3 chances and you never did it. And then you had a chance to take the lead and you end up settling for 3. So it's just, they have to figure it out. They're going to iron it out. And what really sucks, which I wrote about and I talked about before, is that they're not going to be in the spotlight again until the Ole Miss game. So we have 4 weeks of being like a feel-good games where, they're going to beat UCLA and South Alabama and whoever else. But
I was worried about South Carolina. They almost lost to Old Dominion. So fortunately, that game doesn't look as tough as it did.
So you see the point. It's like
you can't play like that against Ole Miss. Ole Miss will wipe the floor with you.
You have to get substantially better over the next 4 weeks. And even if you win those games, you're still going to have that hesitation in the back of your mind, be like, okay, well, we won, but it was South Carolina, or we won, but it was UCLA. And now we have to wait 4 or 5 weeks for Ole Miss to come to a Tiger Stadium in a game that is now the biggest of the Brian Kelly era, because if you lose that game, you're going to really see you're going to see some frustrated fans at that point if you lose to Ole Miss at home. So,
Well, the frustration is born out of they should have won this game, and once again, you start the season playing from behind.
yep.
The goal is to win a national championship. They've made
Yep.
it easier on you now because it's 12 teams and not 4, which is easier than the BCS era when it was 2. It's easier than ever to get into a spot than to win a national championship. And until you lose 3 games, you're in the race, but you've already lost 1. And for that to happen the 5th season in a row, that's why LSU fans are so upset right now, because they didn't go out there and lose 45-0. They took the lead in the 4th quarter, and look, you felt momentum shift in the building. I was here when they scored to go up 17-13 and immediately capped off the 3rd quarter with another 3 and out on USC's D. It felt like, all right, here they go. They're about to go down. They'll get a field goal or they'll get a touchdown, and they can keep USC at bay and they won't trail again. And instead, they scored 3 points the rest of the way.
Yeah.
We should be nice to some guys. Kyron Lacey, first half. Damian Ramos, shout out. I mean, he's been so consistent for them. Jordan Allen, shout out. I didn't know what Jordan Allen would look like in this game. I wasn't even sure if he was going to start. Like, he was first team. I was like, are they really going to put him out there? He's never played. He's the best safety they had.
Well,
shout out Ashton Stamps, played well.
Yeah.
D-line played well.
I mean, Harold, I thought was good in
Perkins
spurts.
was. Spurts, sure.
I'm not. It was like, well, the first like 2 drives, it was like, oh, this is, and he had the tackle where he tackled both the quarterback and the running back. You're like, oh my gosh, he's done it, he's there. And then the second half, I don't have the stats in front of me, but in the second half, it felt like he was just gone. It was just nowhere to be found.
What's your biggest takeaway?
LSU's offense wasn't sharp, and that is surprising. Because I set expectations probably too high. I'll take the blame, I guess. But Nussmeier lived up to my expectations. Like, it was the offensive line let me down, and honestly, like, maybe Caleb Jackson or run game ish, but those go hand in hand. And then you go to like the receivers without Hilton, were outside of Lacey, were good, not great, but it was like just as an offense as a whole. Like if you look at it outside of like the individuals as a whole, they just weren't sharp. They weren't clean. They didn't have an identity. And that's the biggest surprise to me. That's the biggest concern, because the defense, if you would have told me this exact defense, like this game happened just on the defensive side of the ball, I would have said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes 100% sense. I said the DBs weren't good. I said they were going to blitz. Like I said, Miller Moss was going to have a big game. All this stuff happened that I knew. And then the offense, it was awful in the red zone, was awful, like, I think on short yardage situations, and just didn't have any idea really. Like, they didn't really use Pimpton or Green much at all. So that's the surprising part to me.
I said that they needed to be a top 20 offense, and how you want to slice it. Yardage wise, they fell about 30 yards short of that tonight. But this is also, they'll play some cupcakes where it makes it look different by season's end. Where they fell short, a top 20 offense, though, points-wise, last year would have been 34.5 points a game. They scored 27. 20. Sorry, USC scored 27. So that's you're 14 points short of what a really solid offense should be.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah. It's again, last year LSU got blown out, but we knew Florida State was a damn good team. Like we knew that. This USC team, I think, is a good team. I think USC is a good team, but to lose to them, to me, says, all right, LSU might not be a playoff team this year. And that's pretty disheartening to have early.
Oh, if they play like this? No.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the 12-team playoff gives everybody hope. That's the purpose of the 12-team playoff. So there is still hope that you can make a run at this thing. The Ole Miss game is huge, and we'll get into all that later. But yeah, it's just was disheartening, because this is not a game you should lose in any capacity. Just like the game 2 years ago in New Orleans was not a game LSU really should have lost. But here we are.
I am, again, Nussmeier. He started the bowl, but in his second start, he throws for 421, 76%, 2 TDs. I said he could only turn it over once, no more than that. He threw a pick, but it didn't matter. That was at the end of the game. Who cares
Yeah,
about that? They weren't going to score. Goes for over 300 yards passing, 29 of 38, so that's 76%. People can pick apart, this guy was open here, this guy was open here. I don't care because they can't run the football.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is not bailing you out of games anymore with his legs. So you have to find a way to run the football. And beyond John Emery, 10 for 61, one of them being a 40-yard run, 9 for 33 from Josh Williams. And look, everybody, every fan out there, Caleb Jackson has to be starting all this, 6 for 18. They averaged 3 yards a carry each. And I'll put this on the O-line too. They gave them no runs. Or then why are they running it right up the middle behind DJ Chester? If he's a weak spot for you right now as a new starter.
I'll say what sucked, or I don't want to say what sucked. Caleb, I thought a couple times, like vision-wise, missed a chance to bounce it outside or hit a hole.
Yes, correct.
And I was just like, okay, like, and this is, again, the details that we don't see in practice or that we don't get to see, that we don't get made privy, is like these details of like, it's not just the pass protection with Caleb Jackson. Like maybe it is the small nuances of hitting a hole at this time or the timing and all that stuff. And so that's what John Emery does well. I mean, we know that. That's what, in theory, Josh Williams should do fairly well. But, yeah, there's just a lot of development that still needs to go on with this offense. So,
if I would have told you that this LSU defense held USC to 3 of 9 on third downs, they 0 of 1 on fourth. They did not convert their only fourth down attempt. 60 plays and 3 yards per rush.
yeah.
You would have said, whoa, like Blake Baker just turned them around. What we knew they didn't have and what we said all offseason was, yeah, the DBs can be coached better, but it's still the same guys until you get Stamps more developed. And he looked like the best one. Or PJ Woodland out there. Like, it's still the same players. Jordan Allen is developing, but these veterans are all still the same guys. And that's where this comes in, which you already mentioned. 14 yards per completion. 36 times, 27 completions, 14 yards of completion.
And the 378 yards doesn't even include the 3 pass interference calls. Obviously, one of them that put it at the ball at the 2, which led to a touchdown. So it might as well have been a touchdown. So it's just.
And we knew USC probably wasn't going to be great at running the ball. They ran it for 69 yards. So, like, that was expected. 378 passing yards is. The fix isn't there overnight for those teams.
No. And again,
kudos.
Yeah, and I give Baker credit for trying to do exactly what we said. He's going to try to blitz. They did a good job getting their hands up, batting down balls, right? Popping a couple in the air. Like they tried things to make Miller Moss uncomfortable. They had
some bad bounces too. They had strips that just bounced right into the O-lineman's laps. That then they don't get the turnovers, so things don't fall your way sometimes.
Yeah.
Look, it's a frustrating night for LSU fans. It's 5 years in a row of losing and playing from behind. I'm not putting this on Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not putting this on – really, if you want to talk play calling, conservativeness or whatever, in 3 years I've not seen a Brian Kelly team that can run the football without it being from Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I don't get how. Like, how is that possible? They have talented running backs. You can knock Josh Williams. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry last year.
Yeah.
Like, how are they not running the football?
That's what I'll do my video breakdown on that this week. The rushing game. So,
well, I'll tell you this: last year, only like 5. I'm not kidding. How many players caught a pass last year? 5 all season. 6.
5 all season.
5.
Well, 5 receivers all season.
10 players caught a pass tonight.
Yeah. Lacey Anderson.
And you didn't have Chris Hilton.
Yeah.
But Lacey and Taylor.
5 receivers caught a pass tonight.
You know what? Shout out, Aaron. We knew that Lacey and Taylor were going to be their guys, especially with Hilton out. But regardless, those were going to be the 2 guys who were your go-to guys. Aaron Anderson, 5 for 64 and touchdown. Turn up that 41-yard. 6 targets.
He's good.
Put him in space and feed him.
He's good.
I thought Xavion Thomas was great.
Punt returning too. He tried.
He caught it and he moved it forward. They only returned 7 punts all year last year.
That's insane.
He returned every one except for one tonight that he just said, hey, let it bounce. So He'll spark one eventually, but I don't know how they lost this game.
I don't know.
Outside of just saying they got the lead and then they were just like, oh, we'll win. We'll win the game.
Yeah. We should end this, but I also want to say I don't think they have a punter yet. I thought the punting was pretty horrible. Like Peyton Todd had a 35-yard punt in there. Like it was not good.
Brian Kelly said after the spring game that they don't have a punter and they need to go get one.
I don't know why. I don't know. They brought Blake Oceandorf in here, and I guess they didn't want him punting. I guess. Well, so anyway, that's a whole nother topic we can get into in a separate point. But it's not good. Obviously,
I knew what the DBs were, but the defense played so much better than I thought they would.
Yes.
In fact, I predicted them to win this game 31-27. USC scored 27, but the defense exceeded what I thought 27 would be. I thought USC would play tight, and that's why they would have 27. Defense looked fine to me beyond a lot of the same names that were there last year, missing tackles, taking bad angles, getting run right by. And for me, and look, I'm not on staff and I don't get paid. My job's not on the line, but they put Sage Ryan out there because I think that they know, hey, look, P.J. Woodland's never played in a college game. I'm putting P.J. Woodland out against Nichols, and I'm letting him play every single snap.
100%. It's done. I'm done. I'm done with these. I'm done. And last year I was kind of the opposite. Last year I was like, well, they need the experience because it just felt like the Madhouse defense did not like suit playing these like freshmen or whatnot. This year is a very different circumstance for me. You are starting from a blank slate, and you are playing now guys that Jordan Gilbert, Major Burns, and Sage Ryan. I'm not saying you have to bench all three of them right now, but heck, most LSU fans would want that, and I wouldn't be mad at it. Like Kylan Jackson, get him in the game. PJ Woodland, get him in the game. Deshaun Spears, get him in the game. Like Javian Toviano, get him in the game. Like these are guys that have to play because you have now seen it on a major sample size with two different coaches that these guys are not cut out to play at the level you need them to play at. So that it has to change. It has to change.
Again, the defense, you read all this and you're baffled. How did they lose? Because as you said, we knew Millen Moss would have a good game, and we knew Nuss would. We thought they both would, and they did. But if you're Blake Baker and you were like, oh, we're going to hold him to 3 yards a rush, Zachariah Branch, who's maybe one of the most electric players in the country, did not score. He only caught the ball 4 times on 5 targets. You held him to 56 yards. He can go for 100 and something on you. Yeah. And then his one big return, which came because they scored, and then Kyron Lacey got called for taunting, and they had to kick it off from the 20, and Branch broke it. They held him to a field goal on that one. Branch never scored. Yeah. That was their biggest weapon. And you hold him to 3 yards a rush, and you lost. On a night where your quarterback threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and didn't turn the ball over until it didn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, LSU
it goes right back to what we said then, Matty B. Go listen to our podcast previewing this game. We said on offense, the one thing we don't know is, can they run the football without Jaden Daniels? The answer is no. Yeah. Shout out John Emery.
Thank God for John Emery.
If it weren't for John Emery, they would have had 9 carries for 33 yards, 6 carries for 18, and Xavier Thomas, your receiver, carrying it once for 5.
Yeah, I think it's abysmal. LSU fans have every right to be frustrated with this, frustrated Brian Kelly, and frustrated with this loss because it has been the same story every single year. So we'll see how they go from here. Anything else, so we can wrap this up?
No, we can wrap. We said we were going to go like 12 minutes, and we went 40. We're never good at timing.
No.
But hey, look, LSU fans vent. Get it out there, frustrations, even if they're misguided, because at the end of the day, it's college football. But I also think, Matty B, in the NIL era, I think people have a little bit more leeway to say, I'm not impressed with the product, because the coaches make a lot of money and so do the players now. So if you're moving towards this NIL and rev share model and making it like the NFL, when players play bad on Sunday, they get called out by name, and it's not, that's just what happens. Yeah. And you get benched and you get replaced. And I think there's going to be some of that coming. If not, then they're going to just keep repeating the same stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Throw the ball on every single play for all I care, honestly.
Honestly, at this point, man. All right. That's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope this gave y'all a little bit of
Hope you enjoyed us talking about the game. They didn't
help.
happen.
Yeah, helped y'all grieve a little bit and get you through this. But leave a like, comment, share, subscribe to the YouTube, subscribe to the Bengal Tiger if you haven't already. It's popping.
It's lit. It's popping.
It's
This is the
popping,
busiest
man.
I've seen the board in years.
It's popping. I got to get back on there right now. I've been off for too long. I was on there
Well,
all night.
yeah, I've got to walk from. I'm the last person I think who's still in the
And
stadium right now, and I've got to walk all the way back to the hotel. So
yeah,
moderate the board while I'm gone. It's
there
heating,
you
Matty
go.
B.
I
It's
got it.
bad over
I
there.
got it. All right. My battery's at 1% on my computer,
All
so
right,
I'm
let's get
wrapping
out of
this
here.
up. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll talk to y'all later.